Hello, and welcome to a reading and analysis of William Shakespeare's Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. Today is the big speech. Not a long speech, but a big speech. And I'm very excited to analyze it with you and see all the other crazy things that happen in this short little scene. So we are back in Dunsinane in Macbeth's castle here, and he's calling out to his soldiers as the battle is quickly approaching. He says, "Hang out our banners on the outward walls. The cry is still they come. Our castle's strength will laugh a siege to scorn." So basically, they're going to bunker into the castle and withstand the assault. And he is confident in the strength of his castle. He says, "Here let them lie till famine and the ague." I'll start that over. "Here let them lie till famine and the ague eat them up." Ague meaning pestilence. So basically, we'll stay in here until disease takes care of them out there. "Were they not forced with those that should be ours, we might have met them dareful, beard to beard, and beat them backward home." Which is a very alliterative line there, right? Beard to beard and beat them backward. So basically, he's saying if they didn't have the traitors, who he considers traitors, on their side, he would go fight them in the field, but instead he'll stay and fight them from the castle. A cry from within. What is that noise? Satan says, "It is the cry of woman, my good lord," and he runs off. And then alone on stage, Macbeth says, "I have almost forgot the taste of fears. The time has been my senses would have cooled to hear a night shriek, and my fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir as life were in it." So basically, he is saying he's forgotten what it's like to be afraid. There was a time when if I would have heard a scream like that, it would have made the hairs on the back of my neck stand still, but not anymore. He says, "I have supped full with horrors. Direness familiar to my slaughterous thoughts cannot once start me." So nothing scares him anymore because of all the things he's done. He's seen so many horrific things, mostly his own doing, that nothing scares him. And then Satan enters, and he says, Macbeth says, "Wherefore was that cry?" And Satan gives the big news: "The queen, my lord, is dead." So Lady Macbeth has died. She dies off stage, and Macbeth then goes into perhaps the second most famous monologue in all of Shakespeare, second only to Hamlet's "To Be or Not to Be." And I'm just going to read the whole thing through, and then we'll go back and kind of take it line by line. But just to hear it all in one go, and notice for a monologue that is so famous, notice that it's rather short. Macbeth says, "She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." Okay, so a remarkably short monologue, and Shakespeare tells us right from the get-go why this monologue is so short. At the beginning, "She should have died hereafter." The "she" is obviously Lady Macbeth. Hereafter means at a later time. She should have died later than today. Now, there's so many reasons why that could be, because Macbeth feels he can't live without her, because she was the love of his life. And those things might very well be true. But notice what he actually says in the second line of the monologue: "There would have been a time for such a word being her death." So she should have died later because Macbeth would have had time to mourn her. That's why this monologue is so short. Macbeth doesn't have time to mourn his wife. There's an army approaching. And we've seen the relationship fall apart. As troubled as these characters are, the Macbeths are actually a pretty strong couple at the beginning of the play. You know, a little manipulation in there. But they are a strong couple. No one is trying to cheat anyone else out of anything. No one is trying to go around the other person. They are united in their plan for their lives. It's just a terrible, horrific one. But they are united, but they've been pulled apart. They're barely on stage together. I think it's Act 3. Yeah, is the last time they're on stage together. So the relationship totally falls apart. And here Macbeth doesn't even have time to mourn her. He continues to talk with that focus on time. He says tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. So day after day after day creeps in this petty pace from day to the last syllable of recorded time. So life just goes on day after day after day, and it's a petty pace. It's a slow pace. And it's not significant until time itself is done. And now we talked about tomorrow. Now we're going to go to yesterday. And all our yesterdays, so we were talking about future, now the past, all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Lighted meaning guided. So our yesterdays have shown us that we are just going toward death. Everyone dies eventually. And now he kind of pivots off that word lighted and says, out, out, brief candle. That's a really interesting line because out is, of course, or at least the word out is significant because Lady Macbeth said out, damn spot. And brief candle here means a candle, right? Like metaphorically, life doesn't burn very long. We don't live that long in the grand scheme of things, but also Lady Macbeth was holding a candle in that scene. So we see these parallel images being used here. And then candle, light. Now we get life's but a walking shadow. Poor player here meaning actor, who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. So this actor is only on the stage for an hour and they go back and forth, and then they're done. And what sort of tale do they tell? What story, what play? It is a tale told by an idiot. And it is full of sound and fury, right? Famous novel by William Faulkner that titles itself from this, Sound and Fury, and it signifies nothing. So it's this extreme example of existential dread, of nihilism, of everything collapsing around you. And we tend to think of that as very like, 20th century ideas onward, but here you see it expressed in Macbeth, right? He does not need the Nietzschean philosophy to understand existential dread. It's a human thing, and that's all he gets. That's all he gets to say. I think a lot of the reasons why this monologue is so famous is there's no wasted words in there at all. It is incredibly concise, and there's this beautiful music built into it. There's a famous production of Macbeth from the 1970s with Judi Dench as Lady Macbeth and Sir Ian McClellan as Macbeth. And in an interview talking about this, he talks about it's like playing Beethoven, right? The music is built in there. You just have to, sorry, a little stuffed up today. I'm going to cut this out of the master edit later on. Okay, so the music is in there. It's just sitting down and playing it, right? The music is built into the meter, into the words, into the repetition, and so much repetition in here. The alliteration, the repetition of tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, right, to drive that emphasis home. So basically what he was saying there is, yes, I did a great job, but it's because the words are so great. And it's the sort of monologue you don't really have to overcomplicate it. You just deliver it, and the words are so powerful, it carries everything. Messenger enters, And Macbeth immediately has to turn to business here. He says, "Thou comest to use thy tongue, thy story quickly. Gracious my lord, I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it. Well say, sir, as I did stand my watch upon the hill, I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move. Liar and slave." So you see Macbeth only gets half verse lines here. Well say, sir, liar and slave, right? It's moving very quickly now. Let him endure your wrath, or sorry, sorry. Let me endure your wrath, if it be not so. Within this 3 mile, may you see it coming, I say, a moving grove. So the messenger brings the worst follow-up news, right? The worst news is that Lady Macbeth is dead. Now we have the woods are moving to Burnham Wood. And Macbeth says in a monologue that is honestly longer than the one he just gave, if not just as long. I think it might be just a hair longer. He says, "If thou speakest false, upon the next tree shalt thou hang alive till famine cling thee. If thy speech be sooth," meaning truth, "I care not if thou dost for me as much." So if you are lying to me, you're going to die for it. But if you're speaking the truth, I might as well die, because everything's going to fall apart. He says, "I pull in resolution and begin to doubt the equivocation of the fiend that lies like truth. Fear not till Burnham Wood do come to Dunsinane. And now a wood comes toward Dunsinane." So he's talking about the witches, right? The equivocation of the fiend, right? That lies like truth. Equivocating is to skirt around the truth. It's to lie without blatantly lying. So you're burying the truth and hiding it there through things like euphemism or very just careful talk. And very interestingly, that word comes up a lot in this play. I'll post a link in the description to an article that I believe the Globe posted, an essay on the historical significance of equivocation, because it's a word that was used as a defense for a priest during the gunpowder plot, which came out just before Shakespeare wrote Macbeth. So it's a word that was probably on people's minds. And it's very important here. It's the witch's main tool, is lying without making it seem like they're lying on the most insane little technicality. They're carrying some branches, so the wood moved. Now you're done for. But Macbeth has another plan. Rather than just wait till the woods get there, he yells at everyone. He says, "Arm, arm, and out. If this which he avouches does appear, there is nor flying hence, nor tarrying here." Tarrying meaning staying. "I again to be aweary of the sun, and wish the estate of the world were now undone." Like wishing that it would all just end. Then he yells, "Ring the alarm bell, blow wind, come rack. At least we'll die with harness on our back." Harness there meaning armor. So Macbeth says, whatever's going to happen, I'm going to go down fighting. And some productions put Lady Macbeth's, a lot of productions actually, put Lady Macbeth's body on stage for him to deliver that "she should have died hereafter" monologue too. And if that's the case, then Macbeth can say that line toward Lady Macbeth. Well, you died off stage, but I'm going to die fighting if I die. So Macbeth's plan, just to make it, very clear here, his plan is to leave the fortified castle that he had put all his faith in, that he was going to just hang out until famine took care of the invading forces and they ran out of food or whatever. He was going to use the thing built to defend himself, but now he's not. Because of what the witches told him and the woods seem to be moving, he is going to charge out and get to them before the woods can get to the castle, which seems like a bad military move. But Macbeth doesn't want to tempt what the witches have said, so that's why he does it. So that's 5-5, one of the shortest scenes of the play, but definitely one of the most important ones, and we are getting really close to the end of the play. Thank you so much for watching. As always, there's a 10% off coupon code for field notes down in the description, and also on Patreon you can vote right now for our next live stream, which will either be Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Antigone, or Pygmalion. So I look forward to seeing what you all pick. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Happy reading.